So we're lucky to be able to have the students from Silver Elementary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Is that right?
Yes. Here. One, two, three.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to communications and celebrations. Presented of the class 2021 Clarissa Hogue Special Education Teacher of the Year Award. Superintendent Johnson.
Yeah, Chairman Grant and trustees, I just recently met my friend here, Claire Chambers, and she's from the Council for Exceptional Children, the Idaho chapter, and she's here to present an award to one of our amazing educators.
I feel right at home. This is my whole day every day. I'm here to present this award for the Clarissa Hogue Teacher of the Year. Clarissa Hogue was a teacher, a special education teacher in the Chicago area for over 50 years. And so we look for candidates who exemplify her personality, which was, she just was an ardent, oh my goodness, what's the word? She was a supporter of students with special needs and was very creative and charismatic. And this year, the award for Idaho goes to Samantha Waters, so come on up.
Thank you. I'm very honored and amazed I received this award. I'm very thankful for my Fremont team. I absolutely love my extended team, and I'm blessed to have them be part of my team for at least 2 years with my paraeducators. So it's been a pleasure being a special education teacher for the Kuna School District.
I've worked with some exceptional educators, across the board throughout the years, and some phenomenal extended resource teachers, and Sam is on top of that list. And she truly is deserving of this award each and every year, and so I appreciate having her work with our kids day in and day out because she's amazing to have. And so, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you for
Yes, you do.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
Do you want to take care of the Kuna?
You bet, Chairman Grant and trustees. It is my honor yet again to celebrate our Kuna Awards with all of you. I won't go into all of it, but I wanted to highlight a few things. If you would mind going to, I think, slide 3. There were multiple submissions, but we wanted to acknowledge the partnership that we've had with Arctic Circle, particularly Lola Pool. We've done a couple of activities with families in the last month with our migrant parent meeting. And then we also had a Get Ready for Kindergarten workshop with young parents, or parents of young preschool aged children. And Arctic Circle partnered with us to provide meals to those families. It's hard after a hectic day at work. You're trying to get your kids fed and ready, and they just were able to get a meal to them so that the parents could come and attend the meeting. So we wanted to give them a shout out for their generosity in that partnership. So thank you to them. And then the next slide is shout outs from our community. So the other nominees are there, as you will have seen in your packet. And then I have a bonus this month to share with you, and I haven't shared it with you previously to keep it as a surprise, but the Idaho Business Review awarded Swan Falls as their top projects in the public projects category. So there's a link to that article. Just a good celebration for our community. Thank you, trustees.
Superintendent Johnson, do you want to talk to us about your report?
Yes. Last month, I shared our K through 3 literacy data with you. And I believe it was Trustee Nixon who said, okay, so we know where we are. What are we doing? And rather than me stand up and talk at you, like I typically do, Allison brought people to you and students to you through a video. So I'm just going to turn that over to the video.
Sorry. It's weird on that screen. Just having issues.
COVID has disrupted all of our lives and in particular the education of our students. Even though kids in Kuna were in-person learning the majority of last year, we still had a lot of interruptions. And we're working really hard as an educational system to help fill those learning gaps and leveraging the new federal funds that we received to boost our support to students. This support we also call intervention or acceleration for students. In just a moment, you're going to hear more about what this looks like, and we'll take a few seconds to learn more in detail about the support that we provide for students. You hear us in education talk about the tiers of instruction. We also call it intervention. On this image, you can see tier 1. It's the base of the pyramid. It's all about the core instruction, the grade level instruction. Every child is receiving rigorous core instruction, no matter if they're in special education or they're advanced, they all get that tier 1 grade level content. On that tier 2 or the middle of the pyramid, we would call it maybe a pre-teach or a re-teach opportunity where students are getting a second opportunity at grade level standards. And they get that second opportunity because they may not have quite gotten one of the standards, or they did get it and they need enrichment. And finally, that third tier is the top of the pyramid. It's actually an opportunity for us to cover prior grade level missing standards. And that can also be for students who typically get things really quickly. Every year, our schools provide these 3 tiers. This year, these efforts are getting a boost thanks to new federal funds. Elementary coordinator Kevin Gifford will explain what this support looks like at our elementary schools.
Well, WIN is a fun acronym we've come up with. It stands for What I Need, and it's a way of thinking that every student gets a win. So at every school, it might look a little different, but at every school, we've designated times where all of our staff that are available to help students with intervention are assigned to the grade level during that time so that we can maximize our resources. And so every student is put into a group based on what they need at that time, and they get a little bit of extra time working just on those things that they need.
Here at Crimson Point, we have built a very special schedule. This is the first year we've done it where we're actually providing 2 types of intervention a day. We are doing tier 2 intervention where every kid gets grade level intervention, either at a high level or they're at whatever level they're at. We have everybody, all hands on deck. We have our PE teacher, our music teacher, we have all of our paras teaching some form of a small group. What we've done is we built a support system where every grade level gets 2 support staff for half an hour that day to then support their class.
At first it was a change, so it was tricky to figure out what we wanted to do and how we wanted to break the kids up. But now that we have it implemented, it's very easy to do. So we start the day with tier 2 reading intervention, have our kids broken up into 4 small groups, working on fluency with me, reading from a Nat Geo small reader. Then they will answer comprehension questions from that same reader in another group, iStations another group, and then silent reading is our final group for reading. For math, that's at the very end of the day. Same thing, it's 4 small groups, and we work on pre-teaching or reteaching depending on what the class needs during that time. We saw that there was a need because of the pandemic that we needed to fill some holes for the kids either from 2 years ago when school shut down or last year being out sick or the stress of the pandemic. We found that the kids were really low in those areas in reading and math. So this is a way to fill those gaps. The kids love it. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they love their group mates that they're with. They have different ones in reading and in math, but they enjoy it.
Well, the hope then is that we're giving everybody a chance to work at what they need, but we're also then looking for some specific gaps with the additional funding and trying to help those students that we've identified that have some of those gaps. So it's a win for everybody, and with the extra funds, we're able to do it even better this year than we've done in years past.
Trustees, that's it. If I can answer any questions, please ask. I also have our elementary coordinator, Kevin Gifford, in the audience. So we focus primarily on K-3. Our next share of data at our next board meeting will be around what are we doing for our secondary students, intermediate students. I think they did a great job presenting and explaining what the process was. Thank you.
Thank you. Athletic Director Donaldson, would you like to talk to us about the update on the athletic task force? Oh, I'm sorry.
Both of us, that's okay. So Chairman Grant, members of the board, we were asked if we would just give an update as to where we are with the work that was done with the athletic task force. The last time that we did a report was in February, it was last February. So we are not going to go through this whole slide presentation. So, okay, don't worry. I promise you, we are not going to do it. We're just going to highlight, Mr. Donaldson and I are just going to highlight a couple of things. And then if you have questions, we're happy to answer that. But the committee had basically 4 outcomes. We broke up into 3 subgroups because the third subgroup was participation numbers and vertical alignment. So instead of 4 groups, we had 3. So we had one group that was working on communication, one was coaches' salaries and retention of quality coaches, and then the third one that I just named. So what Mr. Donaldson and I worked on, if you want to go to the next one, was what were some of the positive accomplishments that we have seen so far? And Tracy, do you want to?
Yeah, we established booster clubs, football and baseball established booster clubs, which has been very helpful for us. Our athletic numbers in the fall are up over 400 student athletes. So that's higher than we've ever had before, which is a positive. Kim, if you want,
Yeah.
we can talk on that.
And I know that Tracy's gonna introduce some of our new coaches, but I just met our dance coach, so very excited. She's very excited, so I won't steal her thunder, but we added swim and dance as sanctioned activities. Golf has been our back-to-back academic state champions, which is pretty amazing. We had a 5-district cross-country champion, Malia Lowe, and
We hired a landscape company to kind of help us with our facilities, help maintain our facilities, make sure everything looks good. We hired 2 nationally certified strength and conditioning coaches, which has been tremendous for our athletic programs. And Coach Bravo is here tonight, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We've purchased new weight benches and new racks. We're waiting on the racks to come in, but that is doing nothing but helping our student athletes. And then part of the new evaluation process that we have for our head coaches is the requirement to conduct either a skill camp for kids or a coaches clinic. And our coaches are dialed in with that. So in this PowerPoint, as you go down through it, you can see what each of our sports is planning on doing in the spring or summer.
or what they've done, and also like a couple of things like with this evaluation, that was a big thing with the athletic task force, is that vertical alignment with our coaches from the middle school to the high school. And you'll see each one of the coaches whatever slides that they've shared, what they're doing or where they're at so far. And also one of the other things was like having youth nights for boys or girls basketball or football. So you'll see also in their slides, some of those things are included, especially as basketball starts up this winter.
An example of that is Coach Holmes. She'll be coming up soon, but she's having a girls' night for her middle school teams. They're gonna come in with announce them, recognize them, so it's a good thing for our kids. The reason that I really like the task force is because it gives us a direction, kind of a focus, and we needed that here, and I think it's been really helpful.
And we refer back to that when we're working on something like, does this align with what the work of the task force? And we try to make sure we are keeping forward with that. So if you want to go to the next slide real quick.
Could I add one thing? I know Christy Hardy's in the room, and just, I think at our last meeting, the swim booster club was approved. Is that correct? Yeah, so it wasn't on there, but I know we did that too, just recently, so, yeah.
No, that's all I need.
Great, perfect. These are some in progress.
Yeah, so we have a parent committee that's gonna work to provide support to our coaches, and also positive sportsmanship for our parents, to do some training and some ways to help our parents out. It's been a very positive experience in sitting down with some of those members of that committee. We're also meeting with CapEd and ICCU to for grant funding ideas. We're getting closer, I think, to some really good things here, Kuna.
Yeah, some big dollar amounts that they're wanting to provide for us, so.
Yeah, and our football boosters have taken kind of a leadership role with ICCU, and we've been working with CapEd, and we're gonna implement that here shortly. At one varsity girls and varsity boys basketball game in the winter, middle school kids will be recognized, as I said earlier. And working in spring with coaches, working with them to come up with ideas of getting the younger players into events.
So those are kind of just the highlights of, the rest of it it's gonna be all the coaches, every coach, and then their slide of where they're at, what they've been doing, some of their stats, and what's coming for them. So if there's any questions for Tracy and I, we're happy to answer, but you probably wanna look through that and see, does that?
No, I appreciate that. I guess maybe I ask as we're kind of evaluating how we did, what would be the best thing you could see that the board could do to help with this process? I mean, is there a specific need that we can help with or provide or do something with?
For me, there's really three things that I'm really kind of dialed in on. One is making sure our coaches are, doing what they need to be doing, they're qualified. We're providing opportunities for them to get better. The other one is strength and conditioning program. Without a good strength and conditioning program, we will have a hard time competing at the 5A level, because all of the other schools around us they're pretty dialed in with their strength and conditioning. And then also, I just think the idea of making sure that we're communicating. If we just continue to communicate, I think that's going to be a big one.
I was going to have a question. So what are we doing at the middle school to feed into this?
That's a good question. So we are trying to vertically align with our coaches, and that's a process. It's never happened here before. Like, we haven't really, so like you've got girls basketball and boys basketball at the high school level, but it hasn't really worked in concert with the middle school. So that's, in terms of hiring, is going to be important. That's going to be an important component. Who are we hiring at middle school, and are they doing what the high school coaches are looking for within their programs? And then also, even younger than that, for example, we just started a club, a basketball club in Kuna for girls and boys basketball, and it goes from third grade on up. So we're starting to build those blocks where we're getting that.
They're not doing Kuna youth basketball anymore?
We still have it.
So this is a different, it's a club out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you.
I would just say the same thing. That's one of the things that was a big deal that we're really trying to work on, and we have new coaches that, as they're meeting the coaches, and we're working to change a little bit of a mindset of how the head coach is going to be the one working with our middle schools too, to help hire and align. Like we talked about plays, we talked about helping kids learn those plays when they're in middle school. So Tracy's working really hard on that.
I think
thank you, Tracy.
The building blocks of the fundamentals that our kids need to know is really important for when they get to the high school level. And we would hope if those kids would already have that when they get to that level, and then if they don't, then it's hard to be successful because you have to reteach or you have to go back and teach those again, so.
And I think as you meet some of these new coaches tonight, you're gonna see their passion and enthusiasm and why they're with us and they're excited to be here. And that's what they want too. They want those kids to come up in our program and have a successful program all the way out.
I think it's a culture.
Yeah.
You know, it's building that culture and making sure that, you know, all of the coaches that we've hired swim. You know, we just started a swim program and she's done a tremendous job. You know, 38 kids come out for swimming. It's great.
And I didn't want to tell her that years ago I was a swim coach, and a swim team coach, but, you know.
If I would have known that.
Yeah.
Assistant, I hear assistant written all over that.
But what can you do? I would say just if there's things that you're hearing that maybe you want to know more about where we're at with something, we're happy, Tracy's happy, because we work together on it, we're happy to do that. But maybe just help us support what the work that we're doing that aligns with the outcomes of the team that worked on that.
You know, we're all here for our kids, we want our kids to find success, and we're just trying to get that culture built.
And some of this work is almost generational, right? I mean, we have the FFA here.
Yep.
And talk about generational programs of success. It doesn't start in 1 year, right? You don't always see that immediate result. And so I think from a board's perspective is keeping the bigger vision, you know, in place. So when people complain about the game that was lost, we're also, we're worried about that, but we really want to know, you know, how are we getting better? So we have a generational success, so.
And those are the things we're getting in place.
Yeah.
Well, the participation, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's really good.
Yeah.
140 in the football program. I think that's probably the most since Lee Leslie and Coach Smart were here. So that's.
Coach James is a great guy. He's a great guy. Does anybody, any other questions for us?
We got some future girls basketball
Yeah.
players here.
Right.
Sorry, I don't want to volleyball players.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you. I'm
You can
gonna,
just stay up there.
I will just continue right into the
Yeah.
next one. Myself and Mr. Graves. I want to bring our new coaches up, just so they can talk a little bit about their programs. There's a few of the coaches that weren't able to make it tonight. Clarissa, if you go to that at the top. John Wynn wasn't able to make it. He's a dairy farmer and he had meetings in Boise today, so he wasn't able to make it. But he is the 5A SIC coach of the year for girls soccer. He came from a club program. His daughter has played in all 4 years at Kuna, and he's a tremendous coach. So we're very lucky to have John. I keep more years. He doesn't know how many more years he'll be able to go, but I keep encouraging him. So, the next coach that we have is Dominic. Dominic, you want to come up and talk a little bit about your program?
Sure. Hello, I'm Dominic Bouvier, the baseball coach here at Kuna High School. Excited about the opportunity to be in Kuna. I grew up just outside Kuna, but one of the things that kind of drew me back when I saw the opening was this is a baseball-rich community. There's a lot of changes that are going on right now in the baseball world, the Treasure Valley, that are really kind of interesting to see how it all plays out. But we were talking about that vertical alignment. I've had a number of meetings with Kuna youth already because I see the exact same vision. We've got to start, like Tracy was saying, we've got to start working with these kids at a young age and developing the program that we want to build here at Kuna High School from a young age and filter that into what we want to accomplish. Foundationally, really, really excited. There's a lot of work that goes into building and maintaining a baseball program. And this fall, we put a lot of time, effort, and energy to really improve upon the facilities that were laid here. Because foundationally, it's really, really solid. But to build the type of program that continually develops players, produces players, not only to go on to college or the next level, but to really teach these young men, life skills through the game. they have to have the right equipment, they have to have the right facilities, they have to have the right coaching, they have to have the right guidance, the drive. One of the things that really excites me is the fact I was just talking to our strength and conditioning coach, and the boys are in there and they're just working their tails off every single day. And I don't even require them to be in there every single day, but they're in there almost every single day. So really excited about that opportunity. We've got a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of things that we're hoping to accomplish this year and build upon moving forward. But excited about that opportunity, and if I can answer any questions, more than happy to do so.
He's out there every day working.
Thank you. How many fundraisers are you doing right now?
Well, right now, we've completed 4 successful off-season fundraisers. We're getting ready to do Boise State concessions for football and basketball. And then, we've got a lot of irons in the fire. So one of the things that we absolutely have to do is raise the funds, because baseball is a pretty expensive sport. And facility-wise, it requires a lot. So that's one of the things that I really am glad that we have awesome boosters in place, because working with them and kind of moving forward in that direction, knock on wood, hopefully it keeps going in that direction, but we've been able to accomplish quite a bit this fall already. So really excited about that.
Thanks, awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Coach Holmes, girls basketball.
Hi, I'm Katie Holmes, and I'm the new girls coach. And I'm really excited to be in Kuna. I've actually lived here for 12 years. I coached at another school previously, took some time off. I have 3 daughters in the school district. And I'm really excited about what's in store. We're now in the 2nd week of our season, so we're up and running. Fundraiser meeting tonight, actually right after practice, so excuse my casual dress. Some of the things that I've done this fall is, we talked about vertical alignment, is Coach Longa, the boys coach, and I put on a coaches clinic for not only the Kuna Middle School coaches, but also the club coaches, Kuna Force. And we went over kind of the basic fundamentals that we would like to see implemented at an early age, and what we really would like them to focus on. And then trying to really build that connection. We built a practice plan with sample drills for them to do, sample basic offensive and defensive sets we would like them to start implementing. And then I've been to a couple practices when it works out with my schedule. And really just trying to build that connection. I've worked with Ashley McNeil, the athletic director at the middle school, on what she thinks it should look like and how we're really going to bridge that gap. In the summer, our plan is to run a camp for young kids. And I just really try to get my name out there as a new coach and offer support for all those coaches who are out there who don't have the time to sit down and really dig into what basketball is, but want to be involved, and how we can provide support resources for them.
Thanks.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about the cultural changes that we're trying to make. On Saturday, our varsity team sat down and we developed some core values for our program. And we are going to live and breathe those core values. We talked about it with the rest of our teams, and we talked about it at our parent meeting last night. And we were really fortunate to have a representative from the parent task force at that parent meeting. And we were able to all come together and hopefully start, make positive steps forward and kind of bridge that gap between parents and coaches. So I have a copy of my expectations for parents and players. If you guys are interested in a copy, I'd be happy to send it to you.
Thanks, Coach.
Questions?
We also added a swim team, and like I said, 38 athletes were a part of that. You would think in swim, and Christy, you can talk about this, the attrition is pretty high, meaning that kids kind of fall off because the work is pretty intensive. Our coach, Abby Ward, she also teaches biology at the Kuna High School. She's done a tremendous job of keeping those kids engaged, involved. I don't believe too many have dropped off from the number. She started with 42, I believe, and ended with 38. So she did a tremendous job. If you see her, make sure to tell her thank you. She's doing a great job for our swim program. Jennifer Hogue is our dance coach. I'll let her talk a little bit about dance.
Hi. I'm Jenny. I am the dance coach, and we actually just started the program back up in 10 years. So this is our first year back, and I have 16 girls on my team. They're phenomenal. We're starting really from the basics, and we're really building this program up. I have great parental involvement, and I'm really excited we're finally getting into our season. So we've been going since June. We do summer practices, and then we actually go all the way till February. So we have a very long season. And we actually have our first showcase coming up next week on the 17th. Everyone, more than welcome to go. It's at Kuna in the gym at 6:30. So yeah, we're really excited. We are in the bigger picture of things. We're looking to get into the middle schools, doing a lot of things with the spirit squad. So making cheer and dance a thing together. So everyone just always clumps us both together, but we are two separate programs, but working together as a team, which is super great. The cheer coach Tessa is amazing, and we're just really excited. We're going to planning on doing mini camps coming up, so getting K through 8th grade, working with them to do cheer and dance technique, and just all these great things coming. So it's my team. They're so cute. I'm really excited. So yeah,
Thanks. Yeah, you could accuse me of theft because we stole Jennifer from Nampa. We stole Josh from Caldwell. We stole Katie from Valley View. So, and we're happy that we did. Strength and conditioning, Coach Bravo, you want to come up and talk a little bit about your program?
How's it going? I'm Josh Bravo, head strength coach. Our program started back early in the summer, and we ended up having 11 programs throughout our school be involved in it. And I had the pleasure of training 396 athletes throughout the summer. And that was just the start. We started an after-school program once school started, about 2 weeks into the school year. Started with 7 kids, so a low number. Today, we just finished up training 67 kids this afternoon. So obviously that number is growing, and it's still just the tip of the iceberg. We are big into culture and really kind of putting the kids out in the forefront, because I mean, we can have the best program in the world, the worst program in the world, but if the kids don't push themselves or try hard, then it's literally means nothing. So these kids, we try to give recognition throughout social media, throughout the school. We do lifter of the week every week, and we pick out the kids that are 100% attendance, push themselves hard, pushing others, and we want to build a lot of leadership qualities in these kids. And then another thing that we're really pushing forward to is just growth in body changes. We had a set point back in the summer. We had our maxes at the end of summer, and we have kids from just the summer until now already putting upwards to 100 pounds on their squats, 20, 30 pounds on their bench press. You're seeing drastic changes in their broad jump. Hip explosion is just going through the roof. So it's working, and couldn't do it without these kids. We got a great community out here, hardworking kids. I mean, that just comes from the community. And then now we're just trying to channel that into athletics. So our athletic development has been something pretty cool to see. And we're only in the first semester of being here, so it's going to be awesome to see what happens down the road. My partner is Danny Huss. She came from Caldwell too, the Caldwell area. When Tracy interviewed me, he asked me, what can we bring here? I was like, her. And so luckily he got us both here, and a little bit about our backgrounds. We're competitive lifters. I'm a power lifter, and she's a strongman lifter. 2016, she was labeled the world's strongest woman. So she had a little bit of background in strength building and a lot of programming. And now she's learning a lot being in the regular school setting. She was in an alternate school in Caldwell. And so she's learning the ebb and flow of everything, but she's an amazing partner to have along with this journey. And having a strong female lead in that weight room is doing wonders for girls basketball, volleyball, cheer. I mean, our cheer program this summer, we had, I think it was about 50 kids every session with those cheerleaders, and they just look up to her, and it's awesome to see. So.
And Rome isn't built today.
That's right.
It takes time to see results, but
Okay.
State of
Cool.
Thanks,
Thank you.
appreciate it. We also want to celebrate some of our student athletes a little bit. Hunter Price, he wrote an essay to the Idaho High School Activities Association, and he was a finalist for the Interscholastic Star Award. With that, he received a scholarship and then recognition from the IDHSAA. He was a member of the cross-country team. He also played football his junior year, and he
Choir.
yeah, was in choir as well. Yes. And he maintains a 4.0 grade point average. So I wanted to just make sure that I gave a shout out to Hunter because he's a very talented young man. Also, Malia Lowe, she's our 5A district cross-country champion. Malia, she finished 4th in the state tournament. She has been, I believe she finished 25th as a junior in the state tournament and then came back as a senior and finished 4th. She has signed, I believe, with Utah State, so to attend Utah State. Okay, so. And then also, I'm planning on having a lunch for our academic champions. Any student athletes that are over 3.5 are recognized. We have certificates that I sign and we get paid for their banquets. But I believe there's 59 of them. And in the next couple of weeks, we will be having an academic champions banquet, probably in the gymnasium or commons. It's a great way to recognize those kids that are, doing it both in the classroom and on the field. Okay. Turn it over to you. You see yourself?
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh.
So my part is equally, if not more fun than Mr. Donaldson. Part of what makes Kuna great is obviously all the opportunities. I love the way Mr. Gifford looks better in person than on TV, but that win acronym and finding a way for every kid to win, and that's why we have as many programs as we do. That's why the excitement of adding swim, adding dance. Right now in the announcements, it's all about ski and snowboard club. It's about our winter stuff. It's about our club starting up finally. Just that excitement to celebrate our students, both in their clubs and their activities, but also academically. Brooklyn, who we're going to be lucky enough to hear from just a little bit. Not since 2018 have we had someone recognized through National Merit Scholar. She was a commendation, so her picture will be up as you walk in to the school forever. So your kids can, well, in like 30 years. But that's really cool. Again, it doesn't happen a lot. It should happen more. We want it to happen more, but that's a big deal for us. So that's really cool. Next, I don't know if you guys have seen in the news, but our ROTC has got the opportunity to go to the Air Force game. And for them and for me, it was a great game because Air Force won it. But for our kids, it was a really cool opportunity for our ROTC. They got to present the colors, so that's them in the middle. And then they also, what they bragged about even louder to Superintendent Johnson and myself was their involvement in the Meridian Alzheimer's Walk and just their ability to give back to the community. They gave 43 cadets, and they said, and then lots of family members that participated. So that's that second picture. The next one, it's kind of sad because every Tuesday and Thursday it was like the theme music for Kuna, at least this side of town, was our Kuna Gold Marching Band. They just finished their season, a season that was rather strange because last fall, remember that our sports got to have kind of a season. It was all shortened for every sport, but our marching band didn't. So they had to take a complete year off. So and it's a momentum thing. And so they were down in numbers a little bit, and they had to take a year off. Remember, they were the 2-time defending District 3 champs. They did have a great bounce back year. Bragging, they took 2nd at Caldwell, they took 3rd at Ridgeview, and ended up 5th at District 3. So they were very proud of the season they had and excited about kind of getting that fire going again. And I not to challenge any team, but I don't know if there's a team that works harder than those guys. They're out there a lot. So our choir, Mr. Olson, got news just recently that he had 15 students that qualified for that prestigious all-state competition. So I know Mr. Olson's team also had to take a year off. They didn't have any festivals, any competitions last year. So again, very excited about a bounce back season. I'll go through these. This is a really cool opportunity that Mrs. Robinson and Mrs. Bauer, they took a group of students to the Idaho Hispanic Youth Leadership Summit. And 6 of our students were recognized, 5 seniors. And I'm gonna try. Alex, I'm gonna go just first names here, but Alex, Cristo, Alexis, Javier, they all received, and then a junior, Sydney, all received $60,000 scholarships to the College of Idaho. If you look at College of Idaho, that's about a half ride, just from this summit that our kids were recognized with. So that's a really big honor for those 5 kids. Last, I'm not gonna do the talking now. I get to hand it over to one of our brand new teachers. This is first year ever teaching. First year, wrong guy. But Mr. Digert will take over from here. But our FFA had an okay time at nationals. They might be here for about an hour.
I'm gonna let these 3 take over and do the talking first.
Thank you, guys.
All right, well, hello, everybody. We're very grateful for this opportunity to speak about our results from nationals. I'm Natalie Ayala. I'm Brooklyn Lowe.
I'm Heidi Brooklyn.
And just to give a bit of context behind our chapters in Idaho, there are 92 FFA chapters in the state of Idaho. And Idaho has about 24 different career development events in which students may compete for the opportunity to represent our state at the national level. So only state winners get to go to compete at the national level at the national convention, and it's very rare for just one chapter to take 5 state winning events in just 1 year. And this year, Kuna represented Idaho in 20% of the possible events at the national convention. And what makes the 2021 Kuna FFA delegation even more special is that even despite the COVID-19 pandemic, and the national FFA required that each state winning team was to compete online in August or September in a virtual preliminary round in order to limit the amount of students at the national convention. And so all of them made it to the preliminary round and were able to compete as well as in the finals.
Which is a pretty big deal. It was really difficult. We owe a lot to our advisors and Dr. Touchstone trying to figure out all the technological issues and getting things planned ahead of time, because this was a unique experience for even our first time. So every team and individual that competes at nationals gets a ranking. Whether you're in preliminaries or the finals, then you get a gold, silver, or bronze level ranking, depending on how you performed in comparison to the rest of the teams. So we will be highlighting that. Our first team was the Parliamentary procedure team, which I was on, so I'm going to talk a bit about that. We made it into the top 6 in the nation out of 39 teams. We didn't make it to the final 4, but we were very, very close. And so we were gold ranking in the top 6. So part of that competition is a written test that you take, and it's pretty rigorous. If you receive an 80% or higher, then you become a certified parliamentarian for the next 5 years. And all 6 of our members are now certified parliamentarians, which, to put that into perspective, the last time we had a national team attend nationals, 2 of our team members were certified. So we did pretty well. Our team members were Madeline Hanson, Michaela Greeny, Courtney Williams, Isabella Strobel, Taylor Dixon, and me, Brooklyn Lowe. And then on that written test, another pretty cool thing for myself was I was in a 6-way tie for first place out of 250 kids in the country. So a perfect score, only 6 kids were able to receive that, so that was pretty good. I'm going to turn the time over to Hattie to talk about her team.
So I participated in this year's conduct and meetings team, and it worked the same. We had a preliminary round for nationals, and we had to make the final 12 in order to participate in that competition in person at the national convention. So we did make the semifinals, and we were able to participate in person in Indianapolis at the convention. And it was a really great experience, but we did not make the finals. We placed 5th overall in the nation in our conduct and meetings competition. And 2 of our members, Isabel Summercorn and Shad Hunt, both received perfect scores on our written test. So we were very successful, and it was a great experience.
And then for our agronomy team, which I was on as well, we participated in the virtual preliminary round at the national
at the national level for the beginning of September. And in order to compete at the national convention, we needed to place in the top 17 in order to compete in person. We did make it to the top 17, thankfully, and we were able to make it to the top 10 in the nation after competing. And it was truly an amazing experience. We are a gold ranking agronomy team, and Abigail Crawford received a gold ranking individually in their scores. And while also team members Cameron Brzee, Hannah Spencer, and myself received silver individual rankings. Another part of the competition includes a written exam. It's also quite rigorous, and it's an exam that all aspiring agronomists must take. It was very difficult for each of our team members, and what we learned after getting the results is that 60% of the national qualifying individuals that took the written test in the preliminary round passed the exam, which is based on the exam that agronomists must take. And so that meaning that we have the knowledge level of a person who would have studied for that exam and would have been recognized nationally as well as internationally as agronomists.
It's pretty cool. People study for 4 years in college to take that and pass that test, and our team is able to do it. So. We also had a livestock evaluation team that ranked silver, and that's pretty awesome. We had 3 silver individuals, Kayla Bernheim, Josie Butler, and Kayla Browning, and then 1 bronze individual, Josie Baker. And then another team was the meats evaluation and technology team, which was also silver ranking. All of our members, Riley Kimbler, Jalen Needham, Philip Roberts, and Chase Wooten all received a silver individual ranking as well. And then another really cool thing for our chapter, Emily Blattner received her FFA degree, which is the highest degree that's awarded by the National FFA organization. It takes quite a bit of commitment to agriculture and our community. You must be an active member for at least 36 months, complete at least 3 years of ag classes, earn at least $10,000, and invest at least $7,500 in your supervised agricultural experience project. Maintain a C average or better academically, and complete at least 50 hours of community service. So that was pretty cool for our chapter to watch her receive that.
The National Chapter Award was also given to the Kuna FFA chapter as a 2-star recipient in the National Chapter Award Program last week. So the National Chapter Award Program recognizes outstanding FFA chapters around the nation that are actively implement the mission and strategies of the National FFA organization. Chapters advanced to the national level as recognized as 1, 2, or 3-star chapters. Kuna was one of 10 Idaho chapters to advance to the national level this year and went on to receive a 2-star ranking. Kuna FFA advisors, Mr. Geiger and Mr. Edwards, received Idaho Quality Program grants, which are $10,000 each to benefit our ag program. We just want to say that we greatly appreciate this moment that we're able to share our results with you and show you how great our chapter has truly worked hard and be able to achieve the national level.
Yeah, something I'd like to add is we definitely have a lot of community support, and we don't not recognize that. We're really grateful. We're traveling across the country to Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, so you can imagine that could be quite an expensive trip when you added that for a whole week, but our members are able to go for a very reasonable price because of our community support. The businesses and individuals around here spend quite a bit of money on our chapter, and we're really grateful for that because it makes it so that a lot more people can go. We had 40 people, including adults, about 32 kids, were able to attend the national convention, which is the biggest group we've ever had. And so we're really grateful for the financial support, especially that has been given to our chapter this year. Any questions?
So proud of you guys. Yeah, very proud. Good job. Way to go.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anything out of the consent agenda that we need to take out and discuss? We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, Ally?
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Delegations.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Thank you. With both of you speaking on the same topic, can we have one of you represent?
Can you give me more than 3 minutes? Can you give me 4.5?
I promise it won't be repetitive.
Let's see what you got.
Okay. I'll speak faster. Chairman Grant, members of the board, I appreciate this time to meet with you tonight. I'd like to present some of my research that I have found in additional opportunities that the school district has to access state money to cover the cost of driver's ed. While registering my dog for driver's ed this last spring, I realized that Nampa School District contracts with Phillips Driving School, not a relation to me. By the way, I'm Melanie Phillips, and I represent about 150 parents. So I reached out to Monique McDermott from Nampa School District to find out how they worked that. She said that the state allowed advanced opportunities money to be applied to offset the cost of driver's ed. And if you're not aware of what advanced opportunities is, several years ago, the state of Idaho approved more than $4,000 to be applied towards each student in the state to go towards money or towards college funding so that they could go on to college. Originally, the money was used for college and dual credit courses. However, it has since been expanded to be available for many new skills, including driver's ed. And as of last month, now they have approved it for ACT and SAT passed their exams. Based on this discovery, I reached out to individuals in this district responsible for such programs who both indicated the program was too costly due to the required hiring of more instructors as well as other administrative burdens, and it wasn't possible. And as I evaluated the responses, I came to understand that they were referencing outdated requirements that are no longer barriers to implementing this program. For a better understanding of the current requirements, I contacted Emily Milo, who's the director for the state of Idaho, driver's education. And she explained that to qualify, we don't have to change the program we currently have. We don't have to hire any new teachers. We don't have to have 50 hours of class time to meet FTE requirements. As we have it now, we would qualify. The only thing we need to do is approve to award half a credit for the driver's ed students. So then I talked to Brock Astle, who's over the advanced opportunities for the state of Idaho, and he had a lot of great things to add. And then he directed me to Bill Cooper, who's in Caldwell, because they have such a robust program. They've been doing this for years. So again, I returned to the Kuna School District and provided responses to their concerns along with updated materials from the state and requested a meeting to discuss my findings. But I never heard back. They dismissed me. So consequently, this fall, I reached out to Wendy Johnson, who I appreciate has engaged me in email dialogue on the subject, but I felt like I needed to come here so that I could further the conversation and clarify some program updates and program requirements. One point that was brought up is that the district would prefer to use the funding exclusively for college credits and benefits. Money's left on the table. I talked to Brock Astle in the state. He said only about 2% of all students, high school students, max out on their available funding. So 98% leave money on the table. So they don't have to pick or choose if they use the funding for college credits or driver's ed. It can be both. Another thing is that I know personally of families in our community that have forgone driver's ed, specifically because of the cost burden. And that's unfortunate because for a safety reason, road accidents are the leading cause of death for the youth. When the school district has asked the community to pass much needed bonds and levies, I feel like the community's been very supportive. And in return, I asked that the school district to support the community by allowing students to access the funding that really belongs to them. It would save our families and the community upwards of $200,000 a year. I want to thank Chairman Grant for also recognizing the importance of addressing this topic and agreeing to include it as an action item in next month's agenda. And I ask those with responsibilities over advanced opportunities in driver's ed to become educated on the updated requirements and provide a plan for the board to approve making driver's ed a credited class. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
No, but I want to
How
say.
did I do? 4.5 minutes?
I was gonna say,
Oh.
you did really well on your research, so I appreciate all the time that you put in to present that to us, so thank you very much. You've taken some, gone above and beyond.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so unfinished business, update on KSD's COVID operation plan, Superintendent Johnson.
Yes, Chairman Grant. Just briefly, I'm going to turn most of this over to Elmira, but I just wanted to give you just a short update. Things are a little better. When I say little, like I'm looking for the itty sort of sunshine in some of the challenges that we have, but you can see here the unfilled positions, and we have just a little bit of an improvement in our substitute bill rate. I won't go through all of that today because you can see that, but I'd like to turn over the rest of this explanation to Elmira, which she'll also be very short. At our last board meeting, chairman and trustees, we referenced that we would received a grant to help our community with voluntary COVID testing. We've heard from many parents actually, who have complained about the time factor within getting test results back. And so one of the things we wanted to do to help our families in our community, again, provide it as an opportunity, as an option, not as a requirement, but to provide rapid tests for free for our community through that grant. So Elmira will go through that. We also had another goal within this, and that was to, how do we connect our health occupation students and some of the things that they would like to do and build and skills within this grant opportunity. So Elmira, thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Greg, trustees also, so I can see the screen. I'll keep it short. So we were reached by the Department of Health and Welfare, and they offered us to, to sign for a grant. And there is one primary focus of this grant, which is have to provide free access to COVID tests for our staff and students, of course, with their parents and guardians' permission. So, and we accepted this grant because we believe that it can help us to make things easier or simplify things, and I'll explain why. First of all, this grant allows rapid instant tests where, the user will be able to see results within 15 minutes. And then we don't have to be the one who performed the test. We can simply be observers. All we have to do is just to witness that a person is performing the test. And from everything I've heard, they're really simply designed, so it's really easy to follow instructions. And another thing that we liked about this grant, it allows the purchase of capital assets, for example, an ambulance or a golf cart, to make it to help us to create a mobility. So instead of sending people to a certain location, we can actually drive to that location. And then we can keep these capital assets after the grant is gone. And then when it comes to hiring people, we can have a choice. We can either hire professionals, we can contract, or we can invest in our teachers and their students, for example, to give them an opportunity to maybe get some experience and earn some money. So with all this flexibility, we thought it was worth of, our time and effort to write the grant application and submit it to the Department of Health and Welfare. You scroll down, Clarissa, this is our budget plan. Everything has been approved except for the ambulance because since it's a capital asset in the vehicle, it requires several steps, but we kind of verbally got an approval, but we're still waiting for the approval in writing, just to be on the safe side. So, but the contract has been signed. We can start the program at any time. So we believe that this amount within $280,000, if you scroll down, Clarissa, will help us to run the program at least for 12 months. And then, after that, we will just release it and we'll see how it goes.
So the capital assets are things that we worked with our health occupations teachers to invest in some resources that they could then use for some of the activities that they perform, and would at least put them at the same par level, with other schools. So, for example, you see the ambulance and people will be like, why do you need an ambulance? But they can actually use it to train. They can use it to go to certain events, like let's say at a game or a parade or something like that. And then they can use the other resources for like athletic training for their students to go out and get, if a student gets hurt, like a football game, they can immediately respond. So it was a really good, I thought, partnership with them. And then we, like Elmira mentioned, our students being involved in potentially helping us implement this as a part-time employee. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm still up. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
let's
all right.
talk to
So
us
sorry.
about budget update.
I was like, what?
Thank you.
So yeah, I promised I will keep it under 10 minutes. So if I'm over 10 minutes, please somebody just show me a sign. So the budget season is around the corner, and one thing that I learned, like each year we get, the new trends or hot topics that get attention. So for some reason this year, these 4 topics are getting a lot of attention. So, last week, Kuna School District hosted the Superintendent Regional Meeting, and we invited the CFO from the State Department of Education, Julie Overley, and the Deputy of Superintendent.
Marilyn Whitney?
Yeah, Marilyn Whitney. So they presented on these 4 subjects, and they kind of asked us and encouraged us to keep communicating every time we have a chance to talk to our legislators, because we really want them to understand how it's going to affect our funding and the whole situation every time when they make important decisions. So first, I'm going to start with enrollment and attendance. I'm ready for the next slide. Thank you, Clarissa.
Do you mind if I jump in for just a minute
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that slide, on the
course.
slide prior to that? I know we have the Idaho School Boards Association Convention. So this might be an opportunity. You might be attending a workshop that addresses this. And just to give you some kind of historical context, because of COVID, so last year, our school districts were funded on enrollment. And it's something that we've been kind of pushing for quite some time instead of being funded on attendance. For example, this fall, our attendance isn't quite what we were planning or expecting. And so that alone has caused some potential challenges and may impact our budget, which Elmira will talk in much more detail. The other thing that happened, last legislative session was very challenging. It went longer than is typical. One of the things that very few people realized happened was that the Public Education Stability Fund was frozen for multiple years. So and Elmira will talk about that, but it's something that we're really concerned about because every year, Ms. Phillips mentioned the advanced opportunities. Every year, the state budget to fund advanced opportunities is they overexpend that line item. And so what they have historically done is gone to the Public Education Stability Fund to fund that overage. So it's concerning because if there's no place to go, where they used to go when I was a teacher is they'd come back to school districts and take money. So, and you will probably remember this, Trustee Nixon, when we got our school budgets, it was like spend because it could be frozen. And it just was not a really good practice to make good decisions about money. And so this was set up, wisely set up as a way to protect that. So that's just a little bit of history. And then we've also heard from legislators that we're not spending our COVID money. And so we wanted to address that with you too. Sorry, thank you.
No, thank you.
Wendy, in the JFAC meeting that they had just a couple of weeks ago, I think it was decided that that's going to be frozen again this year.
Yes.
And, but there is a grant coming in that may help replace some of those funds.
Okay, good.
So that's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, we have not been told that information from the state yet. So it's just concerning because we're sitting on $1 million surplus, and we also have over $100 million in the Public Education Stability Fund. So it's hard to understand why it was frozen.
Right.
I'm not stealing any more thunder. It's yours.
Thank you. All right, so enrollment versus attendance. As Wendy mentioned earlier, up until last year, all districts were funded based on attendance. Just a quick example. If you have 10 students enrolled, but only 5 are attending, you're going to be funded based on 5 students, no matter what, regardless of the reason. So, for example, what they do, they take the enrollment and they turn it into the units. For example, just to give you an example, I took a snapshot of one day in October for 5,600 students in units. The full enrollment will give us 288 units. The attendance, which is 94%, will give us 94% of that amount, which is 272 units. And then I'll talk about protection in a few minutes. And then you take the protection plan reduction. So the net units, as you can see here, the net units, and obviously the enrollment is better. You know, I think all districts agree that enrollment is better, even if, you know, even if it comes with hiccups because maybe the state didn't budget enough funds to fund everybody based on enrollment, but it's still better, even with the protection plan. So, and just to give you an idea, this is the number of units we budget. So we're still okay. It's just kind of a perspective that no matter what, enrollment is still better because we hire people, we hire our personnel based on enrollment. We purchase supplies based on enrollment. Do you have any questions? So that's every time when we have an opportunity to talk to our legislatures, our message is enrollment is better. Now, another thing the state asked us to communicate to our legislators is to explain the union protection plan, the union protection pool. So the union protection pool is a self-funded pool, and I will give you an example. For example, let's say we have a district, right? And for some reason, the enrollment and attendance dropped significantly, more than 3%, sometimes 10%. Who's gonna protect them, right? So unfortunately, the state doesn't have an extra rainy day fund just for that. The state will still protect that district, but at the cost of other districts. So in the past, Kuna, and a lot, like, it's always good to be on the side of the districts that give, because that means we have a good enrollment, we have a good attendance, but it's really hard to budget. You know, you know the enrollment is increased, you know the attendance is gonna be great, but you don't know what is that amount of units that you will have to give to help other districts. So based on my estimations, this year it could be very significant because unfortunately West Ada, Nampa, Caldwell, and Boise School District, they're experiencing a significant drop. There is a limit to what the state can take from us and give each other districts. There is a formula. But the state controller's office asked the State Department of Education run a draft trial reports to see what our situation would have been last year if they funded us based on ADA. And the report showed that last year, we would have given 8 units, which we didn't, but we would have if they funded us based on attendance. And we would have lost $800,000. So and that's one of the very important messages that all districts are trying to communicate to legislatures, that the ADA plus protection is just not a good combination for all of us. Do you guys have any questions? I'm ready for the next slide.
You've heard that the phrase 97% protection probably over the years. That's what she's talking about. Each school is protected from losing no more than 97% of the prior year's
ADA. Thank you. Another thing that they ask us to communicate to our legislators is and that's something I didn't know 3 years ago, I'll be honest with you. That's something that I learned, the difference between Public Education Stability Fund and Operational Discretionary Fund. So I know the state doesn't like when we say rainy day fund, but I'm just gonna use it as a reference because that's how we remember it. So, and the difference is Public Education Stability Fund. A simple way of explaining that, when things go wrong, let's say the state budgeted a certain amount, because they have to budget almost 2 years ahead of time, but then they realize, oh, it's not enough, you know, something's gotta give. And then they go to the Public Education Stability Fund, so to make their budget stable. For unknown reasons to me, for some reason, Clarissa, if you can click on this Idaho Code link, which was a surprise for me too, and we mentioned that earlier, if you scroll down, this fund was frozen on July 1st of 2021 for another 3 years. So that was a surprise. So what that means, thank you, Clarissa, so what that means, if they decide to fund us based on enrollment, then obviously, you know, everybody will be entitled of a larger amount of distribution. Where are they gonna get the funds from? if this bucket is frozen. The fear is that they may go after the discretionary funds, which to reduce our allocation per unit, and it looks like I've heard from Trustee Thomas that there could be some grant, hopefully. And if not, then allocation per unit is going to be decreased, and you seem to be receiving a larger amount based on the enrollment, but then another source of funding has been reduced, so kind of a neutral adjustment, if you will. So that's something that the state encourages us to communicate. There is a big difference, and maybe it's too late for this year to increase this fund, but maybe it's not late for the next year to kind of keep communicating and be consistent with our message, all school districts. Do you have any questions? I'm ready for the next slide. And this one, it's not gonna take long, so we're already expecting some questions. Well, what about federal funds? You guys can receive a lot of federal COVID funds. Like, you shouldn't be worried about ADA versus enrollment. And why didn't you just use it all up within one day? Because that's the question we're receiving. Why didn't you just use it up within 1 month? Why are you holding on to those funds? So stability would be our answer, because our strategy is to split it over the course of 3 years. We don't know what you are gonna decide. We just need this stability. And we're also investing in learning loss as well. So the next question that we expect, the follow-up question, I'm ready for the next slide, Clarissa. Well, okay, we understand, but don't just let it sit in the grant reimbursement system. Just draw it down, because that large balance is just flashing and tells us that you don't need any funds. So we also have to educate them and remind them that these are federal funds. They come with requirements. We have to spend our money first. We have to pay our teachers first. We have to purchase supplies first. And then when we log in and we draw down, it's like more logistics, but we hear those questions over and over again. So the takeaway from all of this, I'm ready for the next slide, Clarissa, thank you. So the fiscal takeaway, so every time we have a chance to communicate, we will say funding is better based on enrollment. Then unit protection is self-funded. Somebody's paying, somebody's taking, there is no extra fund for that. Then just because the rainy day fund was frozen, then the state will probably go after the district's level fund. So it needs to be available for use again as soon as possible. And just because we have an unused balance in ESSER funds, ESSER COVID funds, it doesn't mean that we don't need money. We still do. There is a reason why we are holding on to that federal grant. And another takeaway is that we're going to communicate. We're still concerned about the budgets. If there is somewhere where the legislatures can find a surplus, so we will encourage them to use that surplus instead of going after those buckets that I mentioned. And they just should not be relying on federal funds. They just should make state funds stable. So that way we don't have those concerns and we can just run our programs without holding on to federal funds. So that's just the takeaway. And I can already, we're not going to present it to our legislatures, but for us, because my first question, what does it mean for us? Like, where do we stand as a school district? In January, when we have better data from the state, I'm going to update this table. I'll put what we budgeted, and I'll put the scenario, kind of a worst case scenario, what it would mean for us. And then the good case scenario, if they decide to go with enrollment and unfreeze some stability funds. So hopefully we'll have this information by January. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, who do we contact?
In the order I mentioned, but I'll just mention it now. I reached out to our legislators that represent our area to have this conversation with them. So I think what we've heard from at least some of the people that represent us is that they weren't aware when they made the decision to approve the public school budget that this was in there and what it meant. I think they were thinking that the federal funds would be just to be able to cover that, when a lot of us were, the restrictions that are there,
right.
But also like the focus of learning loss being a key piece. And many people most districts were like, we've all been taught to be very fiscally conservative, spread that out over multiple years. We have the ability to spend the funds over 3 years. And so, as you know, you decided to make that decision as well. So just kind of educating them more. So we thought we invited our legislators, hopefully in December. And then I also reached out to some key legislators who serve on JFAC to also help them kind of see what we're doing with the funds, but also to show how this could really hurt the efforts to improve education.
Just when I think we're getting ahead.
I know, yes. Yeah. So I'm sure there'll be sessions at the Idaho School Boards Association, but we wanted to just make sure that you had kind of a heads up before that happened.
Okay.
Thank you. And Almira worked really hard just trying to make something very complicated succinct. Thank
You
you.
did a nice job.
Thank you.
You're up.
Assistant Superintendent Reinhardt, you want to talk to us about update on the bond projects?
Chairman Grant, members of the trustees. As you know, in 2017, our community passed a bond, and about 68% of the community voted in a $50 or $40 million bond. With that, we built the multi-purpose room at Kuna High. We expanded Reed Elementary, thank goodness, right, Kevin?
In some ways, yeah.
And Silver Trail, added 4 rooms there, and Swan Falls High School, which is now, we can say, award-winning Swan Falls High School. With that, in April, I brought to you what was remaining. We didn't spend all that money, and so we had $1.8 million in savings, and we had invested immediately. We had immediately invested that money and had $1.4 million of interest. With a total of about $3.2 million that was remaining from that original 40. In April, you prioritized projects that still needed to be addressed. They're not quite as shiny or sparkly as something like Swan Falls High School, but they are necessary. And so I wanted to give you an update on the progress of those projects, and then begin to just talk about what might be next, and then we can come back at a later time for more detailed conversation and for action on your behalf, on your part. In the parking and lighting department, some things were done in order to make things safer. What key piece was a sidewalk that allowed people to walk to Fremont Elementary, or from Fremont Middle School to their parking lots and not walk through the road. We did some necessary repairs to the front of this building and resealed all parking lots. You don't think of resealing parking lots as a big expense, but it's nearly $110,000 to do that, and we do that every 2 years. Athletics, you heard mentioned by Tracy Donaldson today that weight racks were purchased, and so that came out of the bond. There will also be a handicap entrance to the visitors stands of the football field. Those were ordered like in June. We're still waiting on it with a lot of these projects. A lot of these pictures are even, Googled and put into place because they're just waiting. We had to replace all the irrigation mains at Kuna Middle School, another project that you won't see. That's not indeed Kuna Middle School. We don't have palm trees in the background just yet, but those are some of the projects that we've done in the world of athletics. Other things that have happened, again, many of them hidden. Reed awaits playground equipment. That might be what it looks like, Kevin, when it finally arrives. Automatic doors were 4 of the 18 that are needed for ADA compliance were installed. We plan on doing 4 of those a year with different funds. We did demolish the home on our 100 acres that had previously been standing and had been empty for a bit. And then we did a rather expensive project, but completely unseen, but it's an electronic project that allows us to control ventilation at Kuna High School in a way that they explained the computer to me as the computer talks to the ventilation system, which in turn talks to the controllers, which would be Kevin and his team, so that there's kind of there's a synchronous, they can keep air flowing all the time. So those needed replaced. So those are some of our projects that are either on order or are complete. Next slide, please. Currently being designed, and these are rather expensive projects but necessary, are they're being designed and they'll be in sealed bids because they're going to be rather large. A couple of them will be in the $300,000 area. We need to redo the bathrooms at Kuna Middle School in the gym area to make those ADA compliant. So those are being designed right now by LKB.
So I actually have a question about that one.
Sure.
So considering the issues that have come up with the LGBTQ community, why wouldn't we design these bathrooms as individual bathrooms? And that way we don't have to have like women and men, and then later have issues of like, well, they want to use this bathroom, or they want to, somebody that identifies, if we're designing something new at this point, I would think that it would be wise to just have unisex bathrooms, individual. I know that it complicates things for space, but it's a lot less complicated than, legal struggles, depending on, what parent wants what for their kid. Some parents are going to want and demand that their child have access to the bathroom that they identify with, and other parents are going to be freaking out that somebody that identifies with, but is a different gender is using the same bathroom as their daughter or whatever. I'm just thinking that, I know it's complicated, but why wouldn't we address that while we're making them right now?
Mr. MacArthur, it's a very good point. So our conversation with the architects was to keep that in mind. They're currently designing them with dividers that are floor to ceiling dividers, because of issues that may happen as these roll out. They're mindful of that. I hear you saying like just individual doors going down the hall almost.
Yeah, I mean, like,
That's
when
what
you
we
go
have
to
at Swan
the,
Falls, right?
yeah, or if you go to Target or something, they'll have like a family bathroom,
Yeah.
or whatever. So it's like an individual thing that you can lock and nobody can come in, whatever. And it just seems like that I get that it complicates things a little bit more, but I mean, just looking at this plan, maybe you knock out one of the bathroom stalls, but you have, just kind of a hallway of bathrooms, and there's 3 on each side of the hallway available, and boy or girl could use either one because it's an individually standing space just for them.
Yeah.
It just seems like that's kind of the way that it needs to go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's just my
Completely
thought.
agree, trustee. And in fact, I put Sam on here because this is a Google,
Okay.
I just need a bathroom.
Okay, I was just.
Because
Then
they're
it's
not,
something we can relay. It's a great-
they're not
Yeah.
far enough along, and I would emphasize that point with them.
Well, I
Again.
just feel like, especially because everything does seem to cost so much money with construction. And sometimes I think, oh my gosh, they just barely widened that road to 2 lanes on each side. Why the heck didn't they foresee that this area is growing and do the 3 lanes when they had the chance? Yeah, it might have been a little bit more expensive at the time, but now, it's twice as much or 3 times as much. Anyway, so this seems like one of those expanding the road thing. Like, let's just do what we need to do right now. What's going to be required of us in 10 years? Let's do it now and just do it once. That's kind of what I was thinking. But
Absolutely, thank you. I will certainly convey that to them, and we have had that initial talk with them. So I haven't seen any designs, but they'll come back with them, and I'm sure I'll bring them to the board.
Okay, thanks.
These are projects that were on the list that you looked at last spring. The couple of them have emerged, but for the most part, they are the projects that we've had on before that you didn't prioritize last spring. So instead, we spent about $550,000 on the project you saw, And these are things that still need addressed. The one that recently emerged were the bleachers at Kuna Middle School are quickly becoming unserviceable, and when they're put away, they're jamming up, and they're getting, they're not without the ability to repair, but they're getting there. So we know that we need to address them. I just did some brainstorming on possible funds. Doesn't mean they all have to come from a bond. There are other avenues to fund some of these things. There's still quite a bit of flexibility in the money we have remaining. You'll notice on the first slide, I had showed that we had earmarked $1.4 million for land. That was not an action of the board. That was just always kind of like, we know we need some land. We may need to think 20 years down the road and get some land for our third high school, for the, as I always tell Superintendent Johnson, for kind of the next watch, the 20 years down the road when the next crew is building the next high school. So still a lot of flexibility. What I thought I would do is wait for a couple of these big projects to come in, bring them to you, and then see where we're at with leftover funds so that you could have discussion and take action on what you want to do with how you want to prioritize those funds going forward. I stand for any questions. Thank you, trustees.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, new business, discuss proposal to continue to improve the school board outreach. Director Westfall and Trustee Nixon.
Good evening, trustees.
Go first.
So, go ahead. So we have a couple of proposals that's come forward from the board from Trustee Nixon and Trustee Thompson. The first one, why consider additional outreach? Certainly we've heard from a lot of patrons during this time. They want to know who you are. They want to be heard. They want to know ways to engage. We expect that to continue. And it more importantly, it supports our work in the proposed strategic plan about growing and engaging partnerships with our community. So let's take a look at the first one. Oh, there are 3 slides, and you had these over the weekend. They talk about the research about high-performing school districts, what school boards do, and they're engaged in engagement activities and partnerships and strong communication systems. So we can get through all of these down to our proposal, which is a monthly newsletter to patrons in your zone. So zone 1 to zone 1, zone 2, zone 2. And would include, it'd be centered around your regular meeting. It would have some common content amongst them all. So if any of you have signed up for your lawmakers newsletters, this is a similar idea. Common content, so a recap of what happened, information about the next meeting, a map of your zone, who you are. And there could be some engagement opportunities. Perhaps you want to advertise for the Capital Planning Commission or committee, or rumor patrol. So maybe there's something that's floating around. Really, we're not going to vaccinate your kids, against your will. And then optional. So how much work is this going to be for as a trustee? You could submit a 100-word message. You could recap what you happened in the past month. Maybe you went to some great events. Maybe you went to school board's conference. Share an uplifting story about something you encountered. And then photos of you at different events. So the next one, again, not for the newsletter. We don't get to election year with any of our district emails or resources. We're not here to sell them products or services. And it's not the goal to rehash a debate that was settled in a board meeting. So again, the commitment for a trustee would be, we would write the common content for you, but you would help us grow your following in your zone. So we have email addresses for all the parents in your zones, and we can disaggregate them that way. But if there are other individuals in your zone, say the mayor or someone else you would like to know what's going on about your school board work, we can develop lists for you. Then recommend some common content. Like I'm really hearing interest in athletics, and we can write up something for that. And then send us messages and photos. So we did a quick kind of prototype so you can get a vision of it, similar to the superintendent's newsletter. We use SMORE. And then so here would be the optional personal message. I got a picture of Joy at the chamber event. or recap the meeting. And then you notice we started taking pictures and videos. We include that there. Next school board meeting, you have the opportunity in this tool to ask someone to RSVP. So if you wanted to know someone from your zone is going to be present, you would. A rumor patrol, where's your zone, and a little bit about who you are. So we'll go back. Oops. So how do we get this done? We propose 2 options. One gives us a little more time. So after tonight, we put the newsletter together. We have a deadline to send us information, and then we send it out next Monday. The second option would be we work a little faster because people don't like old news. They want to know tomorrow what happened at the school board meeting. So board meeting would happen Monday. You'd send us the information you wanted for your section. Board meeting happens, we write it, we get it finalized, and we send it out the next day at 5:30. So you've heard us talk about this. We'd like some feedback. If this is something you'd like to, for us to consider on your behalf.
I think it's a wonderful idea, and I know you presented this one time at ISB board and what you did at Nampa, and I think it's a really good way to be transparent and to give people a chance to see what's going on other than at a meeting. And I think that in my, oh, sorry, waking up the baby here, hold on. I think that as I had been out doing door knocking and listening to people, one of the number one things, there's a faction out there that really wants to know what's going on. And some of them feel that they should be able to do that at the meeting. And I think the more we can show the community that we're here for them, that we do represent them, the better it would be. So those are some of my feelings at this point, having just finished an election. Just throwing that out.
Well, I very much appreciate your research and the work that you've put into doing this for us on our behalf, and I think it's a fantastic idea.
No, I like the idea. I guess I'll move on maybe to the timing of it. I mean, I do think people like fresh information, but I just don't know if, I guess, getting 5 people to get all their information to you in that timely a manner, I don't know if that's really realistic. So I think option 1 is probably a lot more realistic as far as being able to do it.
Well, except that's just when it's due by Monday. I mean, if you need more time, you could make a due date of Friday the before. Because you're not necessarily addressing anything as a trustee that is gonna be happening on Tuesday or Wednesday. You know what I mean? That's just the deadline for you to get it in. But I kind of think, and it doesn't really apply to me anymore, but I do think that, like you said, people don't like old news, And so I think, I don't know, that's just my.
I guess something might happen though at the board meeting that might totally change. And if you've already submitted it on Monday, then it's gonna be old news. It's not gonna be old news, but it's gonna be outdated news. That's not gonna make any sense and not gonna have any context.
I
There's a lot of clarifying that you need to do then the next day after the board meeting.
I do like option 1, and I think that most of our information, it's not that, I mean, it may be old, but it's not old until the next meeting. And I think it's important to get it out. And for me, option 2 is really quick.
Well, what if you did it on Friday? You sent it out on Friday, like, hey, this is kind of like, you know what I mean? I mean, if you did that, then the trustees would have the option of even getting it in by Thursday, and then.
Well, personally, I could shoot for Friday, but I can't promise that always. But
you never know when you're gonna have extra people at your house or life is gonna happen.
Yeah. And I know that you referenced, I just wanted to, I guess brag a little bit on this idea with Allison's, because we would be, to our knowledge, the only school district that would do something like this. So I think that we're known for kind of being innovators, and this would be one more opportunity for that to happen. So
I guess I would probably say, let's start with option 1, and if it goes well and we feel like we can move it up and make the timeline faster, then, we could do that. But I think I'd be more comfortable with starting with option 1 and making sure that we can have it up for at least.
I would agree with that.
This is one more time to ensure that all the I's are dotted and T's crossed. Chairman Graff, your report?
Yeah.
So we had aimed to do that, our first one in December. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, and the next one, we're gonna toss to,
Me, yes. So as I was out doing some knocking on doors and talking to people, one of the things that came up was from one of the past board members, Jim Ford, was we used to have listening sessions like a week or so before when we were trying to pass bonds. And we would go to people's homes, I'm just telling you kind of what he said, and have a little dessert and talk about the part of, I'm sorry, sweetie, the part of the school district, would you like? Talk about what's going on in the school district. And I know that that's may not be feasible for everybody, but I am wondering if we could do something maybe a week before, meeting at some library throughout the district, or opening up a Zoom meeting where people feel that they can come and talk and just tell us some of their thoughts on certain topics, or have a certain topic that we would talk about. Maybe it might be, what are we doing in the schools to help catch kids up and listen to if it's working or whatever. So that kind of came up, and I mentioned it to Superintendent Johnson, that it might be something that we need to take a look at, just because there is a faction out there who really feels that we're not listening to them. And I think it's something that we need to take into consideration if we represent them. So that's kind of my little listening session. Don't know what your thoughts are. Maybe it might be something we do every 3 months, but I just thought it might be something to do to invite the community in. And I thought it'd be kind of nice, maybe we could meet at different schools and take a look as a board at what's going on at the schools. So I'll throw that out.
I think the idea is really good. I guess I wonder if Zoom might be a more efficient way to do that and would engage more people. I mean, I hate Zoom on a lot of levels, but I do think there's some things that it does very well, and so I'm not sure. I like the idea of dessert better, but
that's what they used to do. Now they don't do so.
I guess I sort of feel like it's probably more realistic as far as engaging a wider group of people and maybe having an opportunity for people. And we could maybe you could mix it up. Maybe you could do that one quarter and then try it at a school another quarter and see which one goes better and which way it goes.
As we say, and I know that sometimes we have opened up things for people to come to, and we get more on Zoom than we do actual people there. I mean, that's kind of been what I want to say, the past MO. But then we've never really had, I think, the faction that we're hearing from at this point.
So I have a question for you. When they sign up to delegate, we listen.
3 minutes.
But one of the issues is that, like, we don't talk back, we don't really say anything. So that's one of the things that I've heard people are kind of bothered by that, which I totally understand. So listening session kind of sounds like it might be more the same. Are you going to be like, it'll be a conversation?
I think it's more of a conversation, but I didn't name it necessarily listening session. I think it was just what we came up with. I think it's more of a conversation that we need to have with them and to have feedback and to talk. I know that you were involved in the forum. I thought that was a very positive thing where questions were asked, which might be a nice thing for even the community to do once in a while. What do you think? And be able to take a look at that. But yes,
well, what I can say about it is that Kirsty Bruce, that was one of the things that was important to her and that she ran on was bridging the gap between parents, the community, and teachers. And so I think that kind of fits the vision that you had for your seat here. And so I think, but I also, again, we've heard that people want to actually talk to us and want to engage us and not just have us looking stonewall at them while they do their 3-minute presentation. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand that this is a meeting but that would be different.
Yeah.
You know, be a dialogue, a time to talk and to open up. And along with, you know, that could be one of the things that we put in our newsletter. Hey, come to the, you know, session. I don't know, we don't need to call it listening, come up with something, maybe win. Come up with that word. But anyway, something like that.
Would it help for us to take the ideas that you've shared today and kind of put a couple of prototypes together and ensure that with you, maybe it could be a goal for January or something like that?
You know,
I have some
think-
ideas in my head.
I think some people like to attend things in person and some like to go on Zoom. So I think it might be beneficial if we were like, say, at the library at a school and people could come and talk to us, but at the same time, it's something that's on Zoom that they could interact with us too.
I guess the only caution I would have is I've dealt with some of those hybrid type situations and it's makes it pretty difficult. You know, on Zoom, if it's only Zoom, everybody's all kind of equal and everybody can kind of get the attention and do those things. And I think I'm not saying we can't do it, but I do think it creates some other challenges and some other things. So I think, I don't know, maybe, I mean, we can experiment, we can try some different things. I think, to me, it would make more sense maybe to do at least one of each and see what we get. And then, you know, maybe we can try a hybrid and see how that works as well, but.
Absolutely.
You know, as an educator and a teacher, sometimes we put things out and it falls flat and we go, oops, need to tweak that. And I think that even as a school board, that's what we need to do, is we need to take a look and put some things out. If it doesn't work, we'll tweak it. We'll take a look at it. We'll see what we need to do.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
We'll come back with some prototypes that more concrete.
Good of the order, the ISBA convention November 17th through the 19th. And then school visits with legislators in December. We don't have a date for that.
Not yet. I'm working. I will send you what I sent them, so you can have that.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
About getting together about the money situation?
Yeah. The JFAC email that I sent, because they're gonna be, legislators are returning to session for well, I don't know if it's called a special
It's not
session
called
or an
a special
interim session or they're, whatever it is.
We're still
Next
in
week they're
session.
back. So I reached out to JFAC and said, hey, if you're here, you know, from across the state and you have 20 minutes, I'd love to show you what we're doing. And then with our own legislators who are here, they said something about a December date, not set in stone yet. I'm just waiting to hear back from them on some times that would work. But I will communicate that with you. So if you were able to or could attend or with your schedule, I'll let you know.
That makes it hard. I don't know how you guys are with work.
It does.
Hard.
It does.
For me.
Yeah, it does.
So, Joy, have you analyzed the new plan? How many districts are we gonna be split into? At least two, but is there more than two? Our school
For
district?
our school district, I believe there's just gonna be one. I believe we'll all be in the new District 23.
Oh, will we? Okay.
Yeah, we'll all be in the new District 23.
Okay.
Because the new District 23 goes clear to the Oregon border and clear to the Nevada border.
How far north is it? You couldn't really tell on the map.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it and let you know, but I think we're all gonna be in District 23.
Okay. That'll make it better.
Yeah.
We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,